kind of move around a little bit. If I'm in anybody's way blocking your view, please let me know. I'll be happy to get out of the way. With that being said, the town and our staff are here to provide information and facts surrounding the formation of the new Jupiter Fire Rescue Department. The town recognizes that there are people in town who have a different view on this department, and we do respect those different views. As we go along tonight, we will have a session at the end of the night for questions. So we ask that any questions you may have be kept for that ending. Town council members will be taking questions. We've got our finance director and town manager. So please hold any questions for the end of the presentation. So a little history and background on how we got to where we're at today. The town in Palm Beach County have an interlocal agreement that provides fire services to the town of Jupiter. This is normally a 10-year agreement. The previous agreement ended on September 30th of this year. So about a little over 18 months ago now, it was actually January of 2022, the town and Palm Beach County Fire started negotiations on a new interlocal agreement. On that interlocal agreement, Jupiter residents have traditionally paid what it costs to provide service within the town boundaries. There's a different model for other parts of the county, but Jupiter residents have always paid just what it costs to provide service within town boundaries. As the negotiations started, Palm Beach County indicated they wanted to change that model. They wanted to take Jupiter from that model of paying for the service within the town boundaries to paying the same millage rate that is charged to the rest of the county municipalities. And our town council didn't agree with that, so they did some negotiations using staff, Scott, and council members themselves. There were negotiations. But at the same time, council decided they wanted to look at other options. And so in a 5-0 vote, they chose to hire a consultant. That consultant did a very thorough study that showed by Jupiter starting its own fire department, there could be a significant tax savings. Again, going back to how we pay for our fire services, the town doesn't actually pay Palm Beach County. It's you, the taxpayers, that pay that money. And it's done through your property taxes each year. And so there could be a significant tax savings to the residents should the town start its own fire department. So in August, the town council did vote to start that new fire department, and we're now in the implementation phase of it. We're starting to order equipment. We're looking at where fire stations are going to go, again, in the implementation phase. And as I said, the consultant, when they did the study, they came up with a very thorough plan for the new department, and that plan does establish levels as good as, if not better, than what we're seeing currently in the town. So a little background. Again, I mentioned in January 2022, the negotiations started. In June of the same year, the town council voted 5-0 to hire the consultant. In November of 2022, that consultant provided their preliminary findings. And at this meeting, it was brought up that Jupiter could look at starting its own fire department. There were 4 options given. Jupiter starting its own fire department was one of the 4 options. In December of 2022, after Palm Beach County Fire gave a presentation to town council, the town council did vote to continue what is known as the Jupiter MSTU. That is the taxing element that goes onto your tax bills that allows for payment to Palm Beach County Fire. The next month, in January 2023, the consultant came back. This time they gave a very thorough report on their findings. And in that, they again talk about the start of the Jupiter Fire Rescue Department. And that was, again, a very thorough look at what it would cost and the operations surrounding the Jupiter Fire Rescue Department. In March, at this point, March of 2023, the negotiations were coming to a close. Town council discussed the proposal at a meeting from Palm Beach County Fire. Now the proposal had changed. It had changed from what was initially in 5 years' time a $62.5 million charge to Jupiter residents to 44 in a 10-year span. Still significantly higher than what we're currently seeing and what a Jupiter Fire Rescue Department would cost. Of note at this meeting is that there were several uncapped costs in the contract. And Town Council asked Palm Beach County Fire to provide caps on those costs. When they came back in April 2023, Palm Beach County Fire indicated they were not willing to cap those cost areas. And knowing that there needed to be a contract for the continuity of service within Jupiter, the Town Council did vote 3-2 to approve the new interlocal agreement. However, they did note their disappointment that those costs were not capped. And then finally, in August of 2023, the consultant came back. They gave an update now that we had a lot of the figures that had been requested for the new contract from Palm Beach County Fire. The consultant was able to do a new comparison of the contract and comparison really of what it would cost for there to be the county fire department as opposed to the Jupiter Fire Rescue Department. That finding showed that there would be over a 7-year span between $50 and $70 million savings for Jupiter residents. And so at that time, the Town Council voted 3-1 to start the Jupiter Fire Rescue Department. And they also directed the town manager to exercise a 36-month termination clause that had been placed in the new interlocal agreement by Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. Let me get a drink real quick. So we talked. I spoke a little bit earlier about the costs, and so just want to show this graph real quick. This initial line is the historical costs charged to Jupiter residents for fire services. And you can see there's a steady climb over the years. And then we got to the negotiations for the current interlocal agreement. And that top line is what Palm Beach County Fire's initial proposal was. Over a 5-year span, you can see how steeply it would go up from $25.8 million this last year to $35.2 million, in 5 years' time, $64.8 million. The middle line is what was negotiated over the 18 months of negotiations. It starts out at approximately $27.3 million this year, and in 10 years ends up at $42.3 million. And then the final line, the blue one at the bottom, is the estimated numbers surrounding the Jupiter Fire Rescue Department. And I will point out all of these numbers are estimates as far as the 3 lines over on the right. Everything is estimated based upon property values and some other non-ad valorem assessments and all. But you can see that with the start of the Jupiter Fire Rescue Department in 2026, that fiscal year of 2027, the first year cost is $24.5 million estimated, compared to $31.6 million for Jupiter Fire Rescue. And so the first year of savings is the $7 million savings. And that just increases as we go throughout the rest of the interlocal agreement to the last year being almost $10 million. So that is the financial basis behind why Town Council chose to start the Jupiter Fire Rescue Department. So again, over a 7-year span, it's a $50 to $70 million savings. This is based upon property values and some other factors that could affect savings, but right now that is what the estimated amount is going to be. So we're going to take a look when we talk about what you're paying, kind of what it costs to live in Jupiter. Wanted to make sure everybody was aware of what we're talking about on your property tax bill. The first line is the Jupiter Fire Rescue. That's the Jupiter MSTU that we talked about earlier. That is the funds that go directly from what you pay to the tax collector to Palm Beach County Fire. The second arrow down here is Jupiter Operating. That's the millage rate that's charged by the town of Jupiter. And then the third line right below it says Jupiter Debt. That is approved, voter-approved debt that is a non-ad valorem assessment on your bill. It's not non-ad valorem.
That is a debt ad valorem.
Okay, that's a dead ad valorem cost. So as we go into looking at the savings on slides ahead, we just wanted to make sure you understood from the property tax bill what exactly we're talking about. So in the first year, we've talked about what it is as a town, what the savings could be, between $50 and $70 million. But how does that break down for an individual homeowner? So in the first year of the Jupiter Fire Rescue Department, which again is FY27, starts in October of 2026, if your taxable property value is $350,000, the estimate for your taxes to Palm Beach County Fire under the current agreement is $764. For JFRD, the ad valorem charges in the non-ad valorem assessment that will be part of it is going to be $454. It's a savings of $310 for that home in the first year of the JFRD. For a home at $550,000 taxable value, that savings goes to $446. $750,000 taxable value is $622, and then $1 million it's $845. Again, that's in the first year of the JFRD. We'll point out that those dollar amounts are expected to increase as years go on, based upon the estimates for the increases for both the Jupiter Fire Rescue Department and Palm Beach County Fire. So we've talked about the finances. Another reason Town Council chose to make the move is under the current interlocal agreement, your local elected officials have very little say in the services, the costs, and the operations of the fire department that's serving this town. By starting JFRD, they get that control. They're able to have control over the costs, just like they have a say in the cost, the budget of the Jupiter Police Department or the Jupiter Parks and Recreation Department. They're now going to have a say over the costs of fire services in the town. Likewise, operations, they'll be able to ensure that the same level of operations, in terms of gear, personnel, everything, Town Council will have a say in that. And then the levels of service, they'll be able to ensure that the great level of service that Jupiter residents have come to expect will continue. It's all about continuing a tradition of excellence. Jupiter has a very strong reputation in terms of fiscal responsibility. This last April, the town's independent auditor said Jupiter was one of the most fiscally responsible communities in the state. And so with the Jupiter Fire Rescue Department, we'll be able to ensure that continues. Likewise, public safety. Obviously, the Jupiter Police Department is one of the best in the state. Their motto is they set the benchmark for excellence, and that same level of service is going to be expected from the Jupiter Fire Rescue Department. These are our goals that we'll be aiming for with the Jupiter Fire Rescue Department. First off, the ISO Class 1, that is a rating that is used by some insurance companies to set insurance rates. Palm Beach County Fire has that. There's other communities in Palm Beach County that have that. Many communities in the state that have it. That's going to be a goal of the Jupiter Fire Rescue Department. We'll have a strategic plan that will guide the fire department. We'll also be looking at getting accreditation from the Commission on Fire, Accreditation International, and the Commission on Accreditation of Ambulance Services. So one area where, when we talk about, we feel that the service you'll see will be equal to and better than current is in response times. There's been a lot of talk about, can a small municipal fire department meet the response times of a larger department? As you see on this chart, they can. They can actually do better than a large county department in many aspects. And Jupiter, with its goal of all of those accreditations that we showed earlier, has a plan of being in the upper echelons of this chart right here as we go forward. So now look at where we're going. Obviously, in August, town council voted to start the department. We're now in the early FY '24 timeframe. Our new fiscal year started on October 1st. And you can see what we'll be looking at in the next 3 to 4 months. Last night, town council voted to approve the purchase of fire trucks. At the next meeting, they're going to look at ambulances. And then in the months ahead, we will advertise for a fire chief. We'll select the sites for any new stations we need and hire an architect and design firm for those stations. As we get into the spring and summer of next year, we'll be looking at hiring an assistant chief, a quartermaster, and then we'll begin construction of our stations. In 2025, we will continue that staff ramp up, so bring more staff on board. As we get into 2026, we will hire the remainder of our staff. We'll take delivery of our trucks and ambulances over the summer of 2026 so that staff can begin training before they actually begin service on October 1st, 2026. So what happens between now and then? First off, it's important to know that Palm Beach County Fire will continue to provide service to the town of Jupiter between now and October 1st, 2026. You're going to continue to receive the same service that you receive right now. And it's also important to note that the Palm Beach County Board of County Commissioners will continue to set the annual fire rate. That Jupiter MSTU, they will continue to set that rate each year as we go forward in the fiscal years ahead. We also want you to know you're not going to be paying double in taxes. You won't be charged both by the county for services and by Jupiter as we build the department, because the town has got a funding plan in place that will keep that from happening. Once the JFRD is operational, there will be ad valorem taxes and a non-ad valorem assessment used to fund the department. And but it's important to note that that total of ad valorem taxes and non-ad valorem assessment are still going to be less than what the Palm Beach County Fire Rescue assessment is each year. And with that, I'm done. We will open it up for questions. As Julie indicated earlier, we have members of the town council here, and we also have staff that can help answer questions. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, so what happens with the Palm Beach County sites that you have here in Jupiter?
So there's 3 stations within Jupiter currently. The station that is on Military Trail is owned by the town of Jupiter, and there's an agreement that the county uses it, but when their service is in there, the town will resume that building. So that will be one of our stations. And then as far as the other 2 county stations, we fully anticipate the county is going to maintain Station 19, which is out Central Boulevard on the western side of town. They do have pockets of unincorporated Jupiter out west, or Jupiter Farms out west, some unincorporated pockets north of Jupiter that they're going to have to maintain service to, so we fully expect them to maintain that station. And then as far as Station 18, the town has indicated they would like to talk to the county about that station and do what is financially right, but that will come down to negotiations with the county. So the regulations surrounding coverage and all do require 3 stations within Jupiter. So Jupiter will have 3 stations. And as I said, there will be the county station. And so one thing that's important to note about fire services is everything's reciprocal. So departments, the industry is set up that you help each other. And so by the county maintaining at least the 1 station in Jupiter, that means there's going to be 4 stations in Jupiter. And we do anticipate having an interlocal agreement. There's an interlocal agreement that every department in Palm Beach County is a part of, that, or a mutual aid agreement, I should call it, that allows those departments to help each other should the need arise. And so Jupiter will become a part of that agreement. And we do anticipate there being times when that county station may respond to some calls in Jupiter, just like there may be some calls in unincorporated portions of Jupiter that the Jupiter fire rescue department will respond to. That currently goes on with our police department, where they will be the first responders to calls in unincorporated areas, and then when the sheriff's office shows up, the sheriff's office kind of takes the scene, so.
And one more question on that, where are the sites that you're thinking about getting the fourth?
So those sites are being considered right now. The town does own land that they can use for those sites. I will note that none of those areas that are being looked at were purchased under the open bond, or open spaces bond. How that bond is written, it's actually illegal for the town to use any of those sites. So you don't have to worry about any of our open spaces being used for the fire department. But the town does own other land around town that it can use for stations. And we're right now just finalizing where those are gonna be.
Sean, I just want to.
And I'm sorry, I should have asked the mayor if he had
I
anything.
did want to, on behalf of the council, I think something, before we continue with the questions, I think it's something important that we say, and I believe I'm speaking for all of council here, is, okay, we've always been satisfied with Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, so there's never been an issue that the town has ever raised about dissatisfaction with their services. I want to make that very clear. The county wanted to basically have us subsidize more of the rest of the county, and we just didn't think that's fair, and that's our responsibility. But we've always thought highly of, been appreciative for fire rescue. So people have been asking us, a lot of questions, and there's a natural course of things that has to happen. We expect to come out of this, and we're open to be partnering, well with Palm Beach County, Tequesta, Palm Beach Gardens, et cetera, what happens every single day. So some of these things are still subject to discussion, but I will tell you, as an elected official, all of us, the most important thing that we can do is always collaboratively work to share resources where it makes sense for the common good. We all pay county taxes, so, that makes sense. So, as an example, Station 18, right now, that station serves about 3,000 calls a year. What it was serving, the majority of it are in-town Jupiter residents. So while they were serving it because of the contract they had with us, their piece of what gets covered in that station goes down significantly. I'm just using this as an example. So what would be left in unincorporated Palm Beach County for that station to serve is about 500 responses a year. So that's less than, a response and a half a day. We wouldn't expect that Palm Beach County would keep the station open for 1.5 calls a day. So it would make sense for us, to say, hey, mutual aid, majority of the calls are in the town, we'll go ahead and acquire that from you and cover the small amount of unincorporated area around that station. That still has to be worked out. That's something that, our town manager is pursuing. And that's what we can't answer. Now, if they say, no, we're not gonna allow it, which we can't imagine, keeping a station open for 1.5 responses a day. Now, conversely, Station 19, which is near my neighborhood on Central Boulevard, they've got a lot of unincorporated areas, so they've already indicated we would expect that they're gonna keep that station open, which is fine. That means we have to find another location, but we're committed to put 3 stations. So an outcome of this is we're gonna end up with 4 stations in the town, which inherently will provide better coverage. So again, when we say things, people are very sensitive in this time period, like, we're wrapping, Palm Beach County, we're not, okay? But we, the town council and our staff, and they've recommended to us, are taking responsible steps to make sure that we are maintaining the level of service. So another station in town helps you to improve on response time. There's other things in the works. I want to halt there, but I am speaking for my 2 colleagues that are here tonight, and Cam, who's not here, and our newest member. But I just thought I wanted to kind of ground us in, there isn't, in my mind, any animosity or hard feelings. This is simply fundamentally a fiscal decision. How could all of us feel this way, how could we not want to pursue $5 or $6 million a year savings in year one of the fire rescue? So, period. With that, and I want to give my colleagues a chance, but I know I'm speaking for them, but I just wanted to set the tone here, because there's a lot of, when you hear the comments, oh, we're not prepared, we're prepared. Our staff and our consultant has prepared us, and we're within budget, and we're gonna come in under budget. But with that, if Ron and Luis, if you wanna join me up here, we can take turns on answering questions, we'll go around the table. But again, hopefully I made my point. If you want to add, Luis, please feel free.
You guys hear this? Is this better? Okay, just in case. I'm not as loud as what this guy is. So I completely agree with everything that our mayor said, so I do just want to reiterate that. And we have been looking exhaustively. You know, I spent an entire day with Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. It was called Fire Ops 101. It was a special program that they have. They invite elected officials to come and spend a day to see what it's like. And you will never have more respect for fire rescue personnel than after a day like that, where you have something like a 50-pound oxygen tank and you're crawling, and there's a patient that weighs 100 pounds, and look at me. So that was very difficult, and it was a great exercise. You know, a lot of the elected officials got to know one another, got to know fire rescue personnel. We all have the greatest level of respect for them. It is an emotional time, but I do think over time, it will evolve into a really good partnership, the way it's been. I've also spent a day, because we were looking at the different models with Palm Beach Gardens, and that was really important to just spend time with each kind, right? To not only look at one kind. I got to see their training facilities. I got to spend hours and hours talking to the chief and the director of operations there to understand and ask questions. I read their standards undercover, a very impressive document. So really just very impressed with what they had to say and what they did. So I'm very optimistic and excited about this, to be honest with you. I did look into the mutual aid agreements. I think, there are a lot of questions that are popping up. We are trying to answer them. Maybe I should first say that I'm really proud of town staff, because it's incredible how much information we have put out on fire rescue. I don't know if we've done that for, any other item quite like this. We've got a website. So if you go to the Jupiter Fire Department website, we actually post the documents for you to go and look for yourself, right? Read the audit, read the contract, read the presentations. We have a fax. So as we're getting questions from residents, I know as a council member, I'm getting it 3, 4, 5, 10 times. And I'm doing my best to answer them, but it's nice to have a place to park it, right? Those answers. So we're going to continue to update that fact and the website to continue to provide information to residents, push it out on social media as well, just to be responsive. That's one part of it. The other part is just all the work and research that went into this for over a year. You should see on my desk just the pile of fire rescue documents from the mutual aid agreements for all the different municipalities. That's a really important thing to look at. So the thing about mutual aid agreements is that there is no cost to them. That is something I've been hearing. They're exactly that, they're mutual. And so the model with municipal departments is that they do help one another, and you see that in the agreements when you read them. So it's just been, a really interesting time for the town, but I'm really grateful for all that we've been able to accomplish, and that's it. I think it'll be a really wonderful thing, so.
What they said. Personally, when I looked at, during the course of negotiations, it just came down to bottom line, it's time for Jupiter to move on and have their own department. It's home rule, local control, and I just couldn't justify my constituents to put me in office subsidizing other parts of the town corporate Palm Beach County fuel stations and unlimited cost of personnel and so on. So I think you all answered the introduction pretty well. Does anybody have any more questions?
Is Jupiter planning on annexing in any of the unincorporated areas?
Not to the best of my knowledge, no. But in the future, like talking about the station up in Burns Park, they'll be handling. We have Jonathan's, I know there's a couple streets off of Center Street, there's Kennedy Estates, Limestone. I personally always wanted to bring them into the town, but they always refused. They thought their taxes would skyrocket. This might be a good initiative to sit down and talk to those neighborhoods to see if they want to come into the town. So that would be something in progress.
I do have a second question,
Well,
which
just
is just the
On
training.
that one, I just wanted to add, we've always been interested in annexing unincorporated areas. I just want to make sure we're being very clear about that. But to annex an area, it has to be of mutual interest. So we've done it, we've pursued it in the past. So I didn't want, we don't have anything active going, but we're always interested in that.
Is there a plan for training? Or is there going to be a correlation with like Palm Beach County to use their training facilities, or how would you facilitate training with firefighters?
Some of this, we'll let our town manager or staff, but some of us are aware that in meeting with the Gardens, they've offered a real nice partnership that, I think our town manager shared. So we're working on the partnerships we need for that.
Thank you, Mayor, I appreciate it. Finally get an opportunity to answer your questions. I sit there every council meeting and I want to answer your questions so bad, so.
I have a lot of.
There's
questions.
always
I know
email.
you do. And so the answer is yes, we do have a very robust plan for training.
With Palm Beach Gardens.
With Palm Beach Gardens at the moment. Now, for those of you that don't know my background, although I know many of you in this room, I had 42 years in law enforcement, 18 years as a police chief. I've been protecting folks in Jupiter since about 2005. My last job, I was the police chief for the Palm Beach County School District Police. We had 187 schools, 200,000 kids, 23,000 employees spread out over 2,300 square miles. And I worked very closely with Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, Chief Dorn, all these folks. So it's nice to be able to talk because I have a personal relationship with these folks. And so, in answer to your question, yes, at the moment, we have a very strong plan to incorporate training with Palm Beach Gardens and integrate into their fire training academy. They have a tower there. They're one of the only fire departments that are duly accredited in the county and the state. Now, having said that, when all this is done, Jupiter Fire Rescue, just like Jupiter Police, they're gonna have to work with Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. And so I just had a conversation with our district chief this morning about this. And so, so the answer would be yes to training. If they're open to training, yes. We should be training with them. We would welcome the opportunity to train. I think right now we have to get over some emotional things. And so, unlike the town council, I don't vote on this. I'm the one that gets tasked with implementing. And so, but that's a very, very good question. Go ahead, I know you have many.
I'm gonna limit them today, but, so my other, because I try very hard, I'm not putting emotion into this, I'm putting questions.
Yeah.
So, for the locations, I know that I've heard in the town council multiple times that Jupiter is built out. Jupiter is built out, there's no place to build anything else in Jupiter, so where would you assume that you're going to get or where is your proposal for to get the land without using open space? And I know Pyatt, or whatever you call it, over there by Burt Reynolds, was a consideration at one time, but the amount of money that it would cost to demolish that has been in question also.
Yeah, so that's a really good question too, and I'll let the council speak on this as well. We're not ready to say yet where the stations might go because there's a lot that goes into that. Sean
Like?
talked a little bit about the integration with 18, but we're very committed to ISO 1 standards and increasing the coverage. So there are a lot of heat maps and things that we're evaluating to make sure that any proposal that we make, just like everything that we do here in the police and for the town, takes our safety of our residents to the next level. So I've been quiet on this yet because we still have to get the last piece of, we have options that we're
Was
looking
the
at.
cost of the land? Of what-
I'm not ready to say.
No, in budgeted, in these figures that we figured out, was the land acquisition cost in that budget?
We
I
have-
didn't see it.
Yeah.
Conservatively,
Yeah.
conservatively,
Thank you for
We
answering
haven't-
my questions, I appreciate it.
We haven't been evading that question, so, because again, all these things take farmland, and I want to emphasize, you know, people think, gee, the mayor, first of all, yeah, send all blame my way, I'll take that responsibility, but credit, really our staff and the consultant have done all the work. So I've learned, you know, a lot, we all have. But with regard to stations, so you have to think through it logically, and it's not that I did, it's that our consultant and our town manager staff did, is we had 3 stations. So when I went through the logic that, okay, station 18, there's no logic that the county, you go one by one, there's no logic that would keep it open, gee, we'll take that one, and then we'll cover for them, because it's inefficient for them to have a station for 1.5 trips a day. Then actually, myself, easy thing is to say, well, where they're at now. But to the degree the county is gonna stay at Station 19, strategically locating another one somewhere else. They talk about the heat map, which, you know, I knew nothing about, still know nothing about. Those are the things that are still being looked, to find the location for that 4th station that is gonna bring the best value on responding to the community. And that's why, and it got taken out of context, when I said response time is gonna get better, people immediately assume I'm cutting the county. But no, we're gonna have a 4th station that's gonna allow better response time. So I wanted to just say, I know people, everybody thinks, gee, why don't you already know? Because we're going through the process to define that. But based on the number that was included in the budget, there was enough budget money to purchase land. So there was an allowance for land, but we didn't have, and in an initial study, it had referenced a piece of property that we owned that wasn't bond money next to the dog park, but that doesn't make sense for a site, so people are still gravitating, like, are you putting it there? First of all, it was a piece of property that was purchased for potentially workforce housing, so it wasn't bond money. Secondly, we're not gonna put it there. So I wanna at least answer as much as we can tonight, it's in a different format. I'll stay around and answer, we'll stay around and answer, I wanna give others a chance, and I just wanted to kind of, we're not
Answer
hazing.
questions after.
Hello?
No.
Working? Yeah, okay. I also wanted to say that, the budget for the stations is 42 million. So that, I mean, station cost is another thing, and station design. So a lot of people have talked about the Riviera Beach station that is $20 million. That is a very, I don't know if you've seen it. It's huge. I don't know if I don't know how many buildings in Jupiter are that large. But each municipality is different. The thing about a municipal fire department is that you can customize responses, design everything to this community, right, specifically, which is another part of the level of service, and integrate it, weave it into the fabric of the town. You know, more meetings, the way you see our chief at all of our meetings, we're gonna start seeing, you know, fire rescue and really get to know our fire rescue staff. So, you know, Palm Beach Gardens, we can look at what other municipalities and what others have spent on fire rescue stations. I think Palm Beach Gardens, their station was 6 to 7 million recently. I know they're expanding west, but municipalities are very different. If you look at the square mileage of Jupiter, it's much smaller than the square mileage of Palm Beach Gardens, which is expanding westward. That's a much bigger town just in terms of, you know, land area. And so its response is gonna look different than ours. You have other municipalities that are further south, you know, on the coast, very small, all high-rise buildings, again, very different from Jupiter. So, you know, it's about that customization as well. Station costs, I know we have a new counselor, Counselor Ford. He had done a lot of research as well. He works with construction buildings, and his average was about, right, you know, you could say about 10 million. But that's really conservative, because what we're seeing in terms of actual cost with other stations, with Palm Beach Gardens and others, is 6, 7, 8 million. So a budget of 42 million for 3 stations is very conservative.
There was a lot of, when we first did the estimates, this was November of 2022. I know I spoke to the consultant specifically about that and had him include in that initial budget cost for land, because at the time we didn't know. And you can imagine, like you just pointed out, we're built out. So what is the cost of that land if this keeps going up? So we did some assumptions for inflated cost of land and then the station's cost.
Thank you.
The station in Riviera Beach is sort of a poster child of what you shouldn't do. Some parts of the building are bomb-proof, they have bulletproof glass, a sauna, a silent room to, reclining chairs, and just, there's just a lot of waste there, so. I drive by it about 3 times a week, and the way it's juxtaposed to the road, it looks like the doors are too narrow for the trucks. I don't know how they back the trucks out off the road. It just doesn't look like
You
a
don't
good
need to
design
know.
me, but we won't be building one of those in Jupiter.
I have a question. So in my neighborhood, I live on North Waxahachie, there's a fire station that they stopped using probably 10 years ago, just about a block and a half away. Is there any consideration to updating, that facility, or if there are any other facilities, instead of having to worry about buying more of it or purchasing?
Not Hepburn.
Hepburn.
Hepburn
and-
You.
Edmund, yeah.
It used to be Jupiter's.
Yeah.
And it was built in the
Somewhat aware of
70s.
that. Again, it comes down to, the heat map that our consultant and staff are looking at. What the heat map is just simply they have, where all the calls have been to, and then from an insurance standpoint, you try to space the stations. And again, I've done none of this, okay, you know, it's our staff, but I happen to have this, I just wanna explain. So I don't think that one would fit in, you wanna add, but I understand that, first is, what's the most logical thing for response time?
Right.
Then, secondary is, hey, that happens to be a convenient one, but if it's not in the right spot.
So in answer to your question, we've been evaluating all options. And so, have not ruled anything out. And again, as the mayor pointed out, you know, one of the primary driver of all this is how quickly we can get resources to use from a fire perspective. When I talked to the Palm Beach Gardens folks, they have a great analogy that they use. They call it the hello to hello time. And the first hello occurs when you call 911 and you need help. And the second hello occurs when the paramedic or the firefighter is looking at you and saying, hello, I'm here to help you. What is that time? So before just arbitrarily picking station locations, there's a lot of work that goes into that, as the mayor pointed out, because we have to look at all areas of the town. And so we're getting closer to being able to announce that. But again, we talk about Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. I have a great deal of respect for Chief Kennedy, and before I start going down any of that road, I think I ought to have a conversation with him, or at least put something in writing to him, so that we're on the same page. We may not, it's like anything else. We may not agree on things, but I'm hoping on his end, because I can tell you on my end, there's a great deal of respect there. So I hope that answers your question. We are evaluating different things, and here in the very near future, we'll go ahead and be releasing or proposing to the town council what our final decisions are on that. I want to be very careful.
Thank you.
Yes.
In your heat maps, do you consider the age of the charter neighborhoods, because our neighborhood is older, to remove the fire department away from our older?
So we do a community, one of the initial things that you do is a community risk assessment. And in that risk assessment, they look at all kinds of things. They look at the age of buildings, they look at potential for water issues, high-rise, bridges, traffic, all the things that you can think about it. And the chief will tell you, even from a police perspective, when he's looking at his own staffing, he's looking at those things as well. Where's the greatest need? What's the biggest opportunity? What are the obstacles? What keeps us from accomplishing and being the best that we can be in that hello to hello time? That's what we're looking at. And that's why this decision is so important. It's critical. So, another question?
Yeah, is your fire rescue gonna be unionized?
Yes, but well, I can't say that. It's up to the members. I would think they would be. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, because I'm just I was just curious, because you're gonna have to pay them what everybody else is getting paid around here.
Well, I don't know that I necessarily agree with that, because I can tell you as a police chief for the town of Jupiter and the police chief of Palm Beach County School District Police, we didn't pay our officers what Palm Beach County sheriffs.
Now, chief, I'm
Now,
sorry.
I'm telling you, we don't pay them the same, and what we do is we create an environment where we provide the best working conditions, we provide the equipment, we do all the things that make them want to stay here. And so, you know, it's not one size fits all.
But you do have to admit that a couple of years ago, there was an issue with pay, and the police officers were in the council chambers.
And they all
And-
got raises.
Okay, and
Because
so
you gotta
there was an
give them
issue.
raises to keep them, or else you
you have
won't
to be
attract the good
competitive.
people.
You have to be competitive.
Right, but it took a
And
meeting
everything that we
and
fit in our
protesting.
budget will keep us competitive.
Okay, and we're not gonna get like this grand $10,000 assessment put on our taxes that we're gonna have to pay when this is all said and done?
I'm not aware of any assessment.
Well, I don't know, you
About that,
know.
Mayor.
Ad valorem
Well, then
seemed
that's-
like,
Yeah, I'm not aware of any assessment
okay,
that's
well.
going to increase. As a
if-
matter of fact, everything that I'm seeing, the assessment decreases.
Okay, so a couple of years ago, Mayor Koretsky, we had to go for a bond referendum for $20 million for the green space bond. You're saying that you guys are saying that this is gonna cost around $68 million. Why don't we have to go for a bond for that?
Well, first of all, a few things. Number one, and I'll maybe let, our finance director answer too, but from a policy standpoint, we have that was a conservative number, because Ray just showed that. We included an allowance for property that we're gonna strive that we're not gonna need, so we're expecting to come in under. It was a policy decision of the councils, of the two bond issues on buying open land, to make sure that the public wanted us to be buying land. But we're expecting to finance, through a bond or some mechanism, some of the funds, so that you're just paying it over time, just like a mortgage on your house.
But you haven't done that yet.
Built into what our cost is. So the cost, when we say year one, it includes quote unquote the mortgage payment. Now, we used, for the equipment this year, we're using money out of reserves. Well, if you have money in the bank, you're gonna take out a loan at a higher interest rate than you make on your money? No. So we did prudent fiscal, as recommended by our staff. We've done, prudent fiscal actions. We could always bond that, or we could just have paid it and leave it paid out of, but again, all this comes from great recommendations of our staff. Of course, we get to say yay or nay, but more often than not, yay. Do you want to answer that, April?
Terry, I know you sent me an email this morning. I haven't had a chance to respond to you. I've been very busy today. But as far as the financing is concerned, like the mayor just indicated, and the council, the cost that we're seeing come in are a lot less than what we anticipated. As far as financing goes, you can imagine if you're gonna go out and buy a car, buy a house, anything of that nature, the interest rates are very high. Any kind of borrowing that you're doing, the interest rates are very high. We do have the cash that's available. We were accumulating more cash going forward. That's through, I will credit my staff coming up with ingenious ways of accumulating additional funds through interest rates and having those funds available. But there's different kinds of borrowing that municipals can do. One of them is a general obligation bond. That's where we did with the open space. That was a general obligation bond. If you go to do a general obligation, you have to get by the Florida Constitution says that we've got to go get a voter referendum. There's also things as revenue bonds. Last night at the council meeting, I think Mrs. McDermott, I think her name is, mentioned about the non-ad valorem assessment. She understands, I can tell by the way some of her questions, that she understands the revenue, special revenue borrowing mechanisms that are available that would allow us to maybe do some bank loans instead of do a bond. Bonds are very expensive. If we're gonna go out for a bond issue, there's a number of costs associated with doing that bonding that we're hoping to not have to incur as we go through this process because of some of the things that we're doing up front. Like the mayor indicated, we're purchasing things with cash. We do have the cash available. So why wouldn't we do that? We save the interest rate on the back end. So those are some of the things that we're looking at.
The point of my email today was to get the detail of that, like the timeline of how you're spending the reserves and when we're gonna anticipate getting loans, because interest rates could still continue to go up for the next couple of years.
Oh, absolutely.
So
And
how much of the
feds-
reserves are we gonna take before we start getting loans to pay that back?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the last part of it.
How much of the reserves are you gonna spend down, because we have cash, until we get the loans to pay that back? And then at what interest rate are we gonna be at, and what's that gonna mean to our taxes?
Well, right now, some of the models that we're looking at is around 5.5%. Those are the models that we're using for any kind of estimation if we have to go out and borrow. Right now, and I know as part of the presentation when we talked about the budget amendment that we were doing and the funds that we were putting into the budget, we reduced the amount of fund balance from $43.5 million to around $35 million remaining in the reserves. Now, what I'm anticipating happening now after the first of the calendar year, that we're going to increase those reserves back because we have had excess collections due to sales tax, state shared revenues, interest earnings, a number of other items, revenue items that we collect over the years, but also because of prudent financial management of the budget. The police chief, I know he's over there. In fact, I was talking to him before the meeting about how well he manages his budget, and a lot of the department heads, they manage their budget so that at the end of the year, there could be excess revenues to be able to go back into the reserves.
I'm sorry. So in the presentation for the 11 point whatever you budget amended for, there were other projects that are gonna be put on hold.
No, ma'am.
Yeah,
No, ma'am.
what about the destruction of the old town hall in the town green?
No, ma'am. We had received $1 million in public benefit funds, over $1 million to allow for that project to continue. At that point, once we received those funds, then it freed up $1 million to be able to go towards the fire rescue department. So no project got put on hold, and that is not the intent. As far as the capital improvement plan or even the operations budget, those budgets are set by the council. We have not reduced any of those budgets to pay for fire rescue, and that is not the intent going forward.
And then, sorry, Chief Kitzrow, I'm sorry, Chief England, I still call him Chief. Once a chief, always a chief to me. You said that you guys are looking at land, and you're not ready to identify it. Why can't we identify where we're putting them?
Okay, so.
Or at least where we're looking at them?
Well, because there's a lot that goes into that, if I couldn't hear the question, is why are we not identifying the current locations? Because we're evaluating a number of locations yet, still, to be able to make a decision on that, and there's just too many variables at the moment. And a lot of that, again, has to do with response times. I need to understand what Chief Kennedy is doing. As the mayor said, we may have 4 stations here in town, and so there are a number of things yet to be determined. We will be getting to that.
And the land that you're looking at, is that town-owned land, or is that all options?
I'm just telling you, as I said before, we're evaluating all
Okay,
of our options. I know what your question
Yeah.
is. I'm just telling you, we're evaluating all options.
I'm
When we
trying to
get-
understand it, that's why I'm
Okay, when
saying.
we get to a point that I'm ready to make the recommendation to council, then we'll make that recommendation to town council,
and then-
but I'm not there yet.
The other question is that if you have to buy land, and I know you have it set aside, that's fine, does that affect, Scott can answer that question, does that affect the property taxes if you're taking property out of inventory?
I'm sorry, Terry, I didn't actually hear your question.
So if you end up having to buy, use the 42 million to buy land, right? We've already budgeted for that. What happens when, for private land that comes off of the tax rolls? Because now you're not gonna be collecting taxes on that.
That will have effect on the regular ad valorem that would be collected. If that were the case, Right now, we don't see that as the case.
I want to say thank you. I'm sorry I'm getting the mic pulled because we are grateful we had the opportunity to present, and I'll stick around, but I understand there's other agenda topics, right? This is a neighborhood meeting, and we're going to return it there, but I will stick around and answer questions.